Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fella Tarot. Welcome to my channel. So I didn't really know how to title the video from today because at the beginning I thought about showing you the decks that I never use and explaining why, and I think that that's actually a VR. So it would have been quite interesting to do that, but on the other hand, because let's say 90% of my decks are in boxes now, that would not have been very faithful, in the sense that there would have been decks that I don't use, of course, but there would always be decks that I use, and I just didn't know how to do that. And I don't know. So what happened was that I was putting all of the decks, or most of the decks, except the ones that I use on a daily basis, on all the boxes. And then at a certain point, I found out the box that I never use simply because I forgot I had it. And I know how terrible that sounds. I know that. And it's, generally speaking, I'm not an untidy person. As a matter of fact, because I have a little bit of OCD, I actually tend to be extra tidy. But it does happen sometimes that we have moved so many times during the years that sometimes you just put stuff in a box and you just don't open all of the boxes, because it's kind of, I was reading an article the other day, and there's a lot of people in New South Wales, in Sydney where I live, that tend to have PTSD when it comes to moving house. There was this couple that moved 8 times in 5 years, and I can't even imagine what that's like. It's awful, really. And the lady was saying, I don't even unpack my boxes anymore, because I kind of feel that if I do that, then I'm gonna be told that I have to move again. And you see, I know that it sounds terrible, but this is reality in Sydney. This is just what happens in Sydney. If you're particularly unlucky, and we haven't been particularly lucky. So in our case, we have to move a lot as well. So I found this box and I looked through it and I saw all of these decks, and I was like, I don't even remember the last time I actually used one of these. I did remember that it kind of stays in the back of your head that you kind of have these decks, but you don't necessarily use them because they're not right there and you don't see them. It doesn't really come to you like, okay, well, I'm just going to use whatever I see. And so I don't know whether this video is about decks that I don't use, or this video is about wanting to give more love to decks that I don't use because I forgot I had them. Okay, so the first deck is, I think, the Tao Oracle by Madheva Padma. Unfortunately, I could only find the deck, not the box, but I still do have the book somewhere. And it's a pity that I haven't used it in quite some time, because this deck actually is very beautiful. It is also very interesting. It really shows a lot of depth when it comes to different levels of approaching the I Ching. So it's the Tao Oracle, but it's the I Ching, as you can tell from the hexagrams in the backs. So you can tell, all of the symbols, the air, the mount, sorry, the water, the mountain, and so on. I'm not extremely familiar with that. I used to be, but because I haven't seen this deck in such a long time, I have actually used it. And it does have all of the symbols on the cards as well. I remember buying this deck because I knew that Madheva Padma, which is the illustrator, is also the illustrator of the Osho Zen Tarot. So if you're familiar with that tarot deck, you will definitely recognize their art style. And I really love it. I think it's very evocative, the use of the brushstroke, but also the use of the colors. It's very interesting, very beautiful. Wow. And the association between, what I do like is that you not only have the way to identify what number of the I Ching this is, but it's also showing let's say a keyword, and then it explains the keyword with either sentences or other keywords, just to understand better and in depth the meaning of the card. But to me, the relationship between the image on the card and the keyword is actually really, really evocative. I mean, this card is called the standstill, okay? And it says, okay, it's also alienation, a stalemate, a stagnation, withholding, grinding to a halt, insensitivity, and mistrust. And that is such a powerful image to show these, you know, these keywords in action, to show what they actually would look like in an illustration. And I really, really love the way, you know, it pairs up so well with the Osho Zen Tarot. And it's not something that I would normally do, because the I Ching is such a different kind of divination system than an oracle, even though this is called the Tao Oracle. So I suppose, and please, if you know more and I'm saying something completely wrong, please forgive me, because I actually don't. So the book has been packed in the boxes, so I haven't had access to that, and I haven't used this deck in a while. But I do believe that it's called the, as the name Oracle, you know, is prominent in the title because of the keywords. Not all the I Ching decks will show you keywords. Of course, if you go in the gap books, it will, but I mean on the cards themselves. And I just think it's so very evocative. It's, look at this image, enthusiasm. Some of them are really, really fantastic, and I can't stop looking at this deck. And on top of everything, I don't remember if it's by Red Feather or something like that. Sorry, I don't actually remember the publisher, because as I said, I don't have the box anymore and the book has been packed. And I don't think it says anything here, so it's probably not US Games, otherwise you would see the name US Games as they always do on the cards. But it's a very nice cardstock. It's very silky to the touch, a bit papery, but you can tell that it's sturdy. It's got a core and a lamination as well. So it's actually very, really good cardstock. And look at this card, it's amazing. Conflict. This is definitely reminding me of the Osho Zen Tarot. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of cards that reminds me of that. So it's beautiful, it's lovely. Look at this card, the combination of colors. I really love these colors together. Or, you know, this one, duration, obviously showing you all the seasons, absolutely fantastic. And I honestly, I did not use it because, there you go, because it ended up in one of the boxes that I didn't unpack since the last time we moved. And I forgot that I had it. And I want to kick myself now, because, you know, it means that I haven't been using this deck for at least 2 years, which is such a pity, such a shame. So this is the Oracle of Tao, I think it's called. But I'm pretty sure the illustrator is Madheva Padma. And the second deck I want to show you shows that actually there was a bit of a system in my packing, in the sense that this is another I Ching, which is also very unfortunate, because I have another I Ching, but ironically that one actually ended up in a different box, which is one of those that I opened up. So I ended up using that one, which is not my favorite, rather than these two, which are my favorite. But so, you know, this is one of the things that happen when you live in Sydney. It happens all the time. You have to move all the time if you live in Sydney. So, so this one was originally much bigger, too big for my hands. The artwork is absolutely fantastic, as you can see. I trimmed it down a fair bit to just the artwork, basically. Which means obviously that I don't have the references, I don't have the hexagrams in there. So what I did, I actually put the number of the card in the backs. Although I have to say that this, contrary to the Tao Oracle by Madheva Padma, which had illustrations, this one is kind of abstract, but in a way you can actually kind of figure out what, you know, you can clearly see the water and the mountain, so you can kind of figure out what the association is of the elements in the I Ching in this case. Although you will definitely need the guidebook, even though, you know, after a certain point, if you use it, because I remember when I actually got this deck, I started using it all the time. This is the Visionary I Ching, by the way. Also can't find the box. And I'm pretty sure I still have the book. So if you start using it like I did, use it all the time at the beginning when I first got it, I actually started memorizing some of the meanings. But because, as I said, it's been longer than 2 years, I actually don't remember these cards anymore. I mean, I can imagine, obviously. Some of them are very evocative, some of them are more abstract. It's a joy to look at these decks. It's like, it's almost as if I had bought new decks. You know, I have brought new decks into my collection because I had completely forgot about them, which makes me feel really sorry. But on the other hand, for me, it's actually, you know, it's kind of a novelty because, oh, look, I have this deck and I look at it again as if it was the first time that I'm looking at it. So it's like having a new deck. Such a beautiful deck, by the way. Really, really amazing. The artwork is just fantastic. So this is the Visionary I Ching. It has been heavily modified, trimmed down to just the artwork. And I've also edged it, and as you can see, I put some glitter on it. Oh, probably you can't, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit of glitter on it because I thought that would be, you know, nice. So another of those decks that, you know, oh my god, I forgot I had it. I feel so bad about saying that, but if you're out there, if you're like me, if you, for whatever reason, you probably had to move, or you probably had to put some decks in a box, and because you didn't have enough space to showcase them on your shelves, and you forgot you had them, and now you're looking back at them, doesn't it feel the same? Doesn't it feel like you have a new deck? So it's kind of an unboxing video. We have come to that level. It's kind of an unboxing video. So let's have a look at what else I've got. Okay, definitely remember this deck, but I also forgot I had it. I don't know, it's the concept is, you know, you have it in your collection. If someone is saying to you, oh, I've got this new deck, it's called Il Tarocco Bizzarro di Franco Bruno, so the Bizarre Tarot, and it's an Italian deck, and immediately I'll go, oh, of course, yeah, I've got that deck. But I wouldn't be able to locate it. And yeah, it was in one of the boxes that I didn't even open up. So this is from Dal Negro. I bought it for 22 euros, which actually, you know, considering that it's a few years ago, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap. I don't know whether this is still in print or not. I will make sure to put, if it is still in print, I'll make sure, and you like it, I'll make sure to put it in the description box below. But I have no idea. Let me just see if I can tell you what year it's been printed. Not that I can see. No, it doesn't really say anything because this is all the explanation about the major arcanas. It's nice because it actually describes the scene, not just the general meaning of the card. Let's see if it does the same. No, it doesn't do the same for the minor arcanas. It's got a couple of oh, there you go, it's got the English side as well of the booklet, which is cool. So it was a he was a painter, but he made especially caricatures of politicians, sports and show business celebrities appear in Italy's major newspapers and magazines. Well, there you go, I did not know that. These do look like caricatures, by the way, but let's have a look at the deck, because I seem to remember that it's actually rather pipish. But as you can tell, it's actually really good pips, in the sense that, you know, we've got a lot of work. You know what I mean? It's not the lazy kind of pips that sometimes you can get. And look at the core cards there. They are definitely caricatures. I mean, you can really tell. And they're kind of quirky and funny and whimsical at the same time. Yeah, I like this deck. The combination of colors is interesting as well. Let me see if I can get the majors. I don't know. I think I used this deck only a couple of times. It's not a deck that I used to use, you know, frequently. I love the sun and the moon. Oh, that's adorable. It's got the moon and the sun and the Two of Cups. I seem to remember some of these caricatures as well. I mean, or not exactly this one, but in the sense that it's a very peculiar kind of style. And obviously when you see it, you recognize it. Let's see, where are the majors? Hello, there you go. So yeah, definitely it's a beautiful deck. I've got nothing against it, and as I said at the beginning, these are not decks. Oh, look at the devil card. Wow, I mean, that's amazing. So I'm actually sorry that I neglected these decks because I forgot I had them. And, you know, now that I know that they're here, or I know which box they're in, you know, I know that when I pack, I should actually find a system in which I should probably divide my decks into categories and then pack them. And then on the box, I can write down, for example, nature themed decks or animal themed decks or something like that. Look at the Hermit card. It's fantastic with this. It's got the snail, how do you call this, husk? Is that a husk in English? I don't know. The little house where the snail lives. Big boobies, yeah. Sorry about that, I should have warned, that's a lot of nudity. But it's kind of a whimsical nudity as well. I mean, look at this Lovers card. And it's one of the very few decks in which the person, you know, illustrating the Strength card is actually a male instead of a female, which is interesting. I love the... Oh, God. So this monkey is pooping money. Well, we've got the Death card. Really cool. Like, it looks like it's sniggering, you know. So anyway, I really like this deck. I'm so sorry that I haven't used it in such a long time that I forgot that I had it. And, you know, it shows that on the one hand, I feel like I should open all of the boxes. But on the other hand, it's a lot of work. And if you've ever moved, and I'm sure you have, especially when you're not in your 20s, but you're in your 50s, it's like moving and, you know, you feel like, do I really want to open that box? Do I really want to move it? And then find a place for everything and put everything arranged and everything. I don't know. But in any case, so this is the Bizarre Tarot, Tarocco Bizzarro, and it's by Franco Bruno, and the publisher is Dal Negro. So I'll look for it. So if you can still purchase it, I'll make sure to put the link in the description box below. Let's have a look at the next one. So this next tarot deck is also from Dal Negro. This is called I Tarocchini, Secolo XVII. So this is... Tarocchini is just the way in Italian to say small tarot decks. However, this is not small at all. It's by Giuseppe Maria Mitelli. I think some of you may be acquainted with this creator because this used to be a very famous deck. I do not think that this is actually in print anymore, but as always, I will link it below if it is. This is a deck that costed me back then 30 euros. And again, I mean, it wasn't cheap. And I bought it a long time ago. Let's see if I can have a look at the publication date. So, okay, the text is from Gabriele Mandel, and the Aquarellati, so aquarello, sorry, that's watercolor. So that's the technique used to illustrate the deck, but obviously these have been printed. Although to me, it doesn't necessarily look like an watercolor. It might be a combination of techniques because this looks more like brushwork. But in any case, let's see what it says here. It explains a bit of a history of Mitelli. So it's two brothers, Agostino and Giuseppe Maria, and they lived and were acting between 1665 and 1667. This what they wrote down, let's say. so they were living in that era. They are referring back to the tarot as a system for divination, and then it goes on explaining. So it's a very informative kind of little white book, as you can see. And then it talks about the tarot. This is, in this case, is very general for what I can see for now. It just talks about the Italian divination systems called tarot. So it obviously, then it talks about Visconti tarot from 1974. I used to have that. My mom used to have that. So this is very informative, very, very good, if I may say. It doesn't really have any information on the specific cards. So it talks about the specific tarot, but not necessarily card by card. And it's more like the origin of this deck, which looks like it was from 1643. Based on indication of Mazarin, the Cardinal Mazarin, upon instructions of Louis XIV. Wow, okay. In any case, that's really, really interesting, but it's not necessarily something that will help you use the cards. What I wanted to show you is I actually never used this deck. It's completely, as you can tell, it looks completely new, even though it is rather old. I couldn't find the publication date, as a matter of fact. I don't know why they don't write it. I think that, you know, after the 80s they probably did, but before that it was a bit more difficult. And to be honest with you, I kept them in order, even though it doesn't look like it, because this to me looks more like the full card. So they're definitely not in order, although these are still majors, with the Wheel of Fortune and the Justice card. And, you know, this could be Judgment card, the Chariot, the World, probably. It's a very interesting deck. It's obviously based on the Death card. It's really beautiful, the Devil card. So, and then obviously they're Pippish. But again, oh, this is fantastic, because these are actually, I recognize a few. This is Dante Alighieri, for example. These are famous writers from the 14th century in Italy. See, that's, oh, and these looks like professions to me. So it's a very interesting deck. Apologies if I understand that it doesn't feel like I know a lot about this deck. The reason why I don't is because I actually never used it. I never did any kind of research on it. I was told back then that I should buy this deck because everyone talked about it, and I thought it was going to become either famous or one of those decks that you really want in your collection, but I don't necessarily know how to use it. It feels like it's got the minors and the core cards, and obviously the majors, as we've seen, but because it doesn't have any kind of title, you kind of have to know your stuff around this in order to use it, and I never did. And but it is very interesting. I really like these illustrations for the coins, the Suto coins, for example. These look like maybe, I don't know, monsters or something like that. I don't know. In any case, this one, so I don't know how to call them in English, is the Tarocchini by Mitelli. Very famous deck now. I'm pretty sure it's out of print. If they still print it, as always, I will link it below it. But it's one of those decks that you'd get it because it's a collecting item. It's not necessarily a deck that you would use. But let's look at the last two decks. So here we got the Spiral Tarot, and let me just zoom in because this one is rather small. So the Spiral Tarot, this is an original by US Games. I think it's from the 90s. The logo looks like the one from the 90s, but if I can find a publication date, then I'll tell you. This one was still printed in Italy back then. I don't know whether US Games still prints in Italy. I don't think they do, to be honest. They still might. But let's have a look at the year. So this deck is still in print. You can find it. It's a mass market deck, as you know. US Games, of course. No, it doesn't say what year it was printed. Nope. Let's have a look at the... I love the backs, by the way. So perhaps on the guidebook, Spiral Tarot, not that I've used it that much, as you can tell, still practically never opened. And I can't find a publication date on this either, which is a pity because I'd like to know. 97, there you go. I knew it was from the 90s. It does have that kind of cardstock from the 90s. You remember how US Games used to have this kind of really battery feel kind of cardstock, and then all of a sudden they just switch. Although I have to say, I'm not unhappy about the newest editions from US Games. They actually put a lot of value into their products. So when it comes to this deck, oh gosh, look at how gorgeous the deck card is. When it comes to this deck, I have to say that I've seen it trimmed. There's a lot of people actually trimming out the purple and also probably the red borders, and maybe perhaps keeping the white ones. And I think, I mean, if we look at it like this, it feels like it would actually benefit from a trimming, because that way it really brings up the beauty of the artwork. And this deck card is absolutely gorgeous. I even forgot what it looked like. I mean, I remember this deck, and if I see it in other people's channels or Instagram, for example, I can easily recognize it. But for some reason, I did not use it much or at all, to be honest with you. And it's not in order, so I might have used it. But then again, the major arcanas are all together. So that gives me an idea that perhaps I didn't use it. And these are in order, so I don't know. I honestly don't remember. Well, there's a 10 of cups with a 10 of swords, so I don't know. In any case, really beautiful artwork, and I would absolutely love to see, perhaps I should do some research on YouTube and see if someone has a video showing it when it's completely trimmed of the borders, because I really think that it would benefit from that. I seem to recall that someone has done that. 10 of wands, 9 of wands. Oh, look at the 8 of wands, it's beautiful. So it's a beautiful deck. It's slightly smaller than the standard tarot size, and there's nothing wrong with it. And it's, as I said, it's still in publication. You can still order it. Obviously, I think that the cardstock of the latest publication will be definitely different, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good cardstock. It's just that I do prefer the cardstock from the 90s, published by US Games. Really, really beautiful deck. And I really, oh, look at this 5 of Pentacles. That's so nice. It feels like there's even more adding to the melancholy of this card, you know, the being left out in the cold, because they can still see through. So most of the 5 of Pentacles will only show you this kind of window with the 3 pentacles and the 2 figures, you know, outside in the cold. It's probably even snowing and they're barefoot and everything, but you don't necessarily see what's going on in the inside. And as a matter of fact, there's a couple of tarot decks, I think it's called the Vice Versa Tarot by Los Carabel, where you know, you flip the card and in the back you actually see what's going on around the scene. And so in the specific 5 of Pentacles, you see the front of the card showing something like this, and then in the back you see what's going on inside the building, so at the other side of this window, and it shows someone actually crying. And so it shows you a different aspect of the 5 of Pentacles, because I actually believe that the 5 of Pentacles only shows you what you perceive of the card. So you're the one left out in the cold, and you perceive that you have been banned, and you think that everyone else is having a ball on the other side of a window, but you don't necessarily know that. There are cases in which there is regret for the actions taken. So it's a beautiful interpretation of the 5 of Pentacles in that deck. So this is the Spiral Tarot, and let's have a look at the last of the decks that I completely forgot I had. So this deck, I have to be honest, I bought it and then I never used it. Let's see. I paid 21 euros for it. It's by Bybee, Tarocco Egiziano, so the Egyptian tarot. This two-part box, the upper part of this box is actually in covered in I think this is like velvet. It's, let's say it's halfway between velvet and felt, so it feels really weird. It's not the kind of really good soft feeling of velvet. It's kind of rough almost to the touch. I don't even know when the last time was that I opened this deck. I kid you not. I know it's terrible, but it is what it is. So I, again, no idea. See, it's completely new. Never used it. Crazy. I have no idea. What is this? It feels like it's a different kind of system. I'm not necessarily sure that it's a tarot. Let's see if we got some major arcana. That's so weird. This is like an unboxing for me. Okay, we've got the Aleph. So clearly we have Kabbalah references. So I see here, so in the at the top and at the bottom you got the upright and the reverse meaning of the card, but then inside the image the names and the sentences are actually in Spanish. Las aves, los peces, and el caos, la nada. So this is all Spanish. El diablo, of course, el cielo, el hombre y los animales. La rueda, la fortuna. Okay, so these are obviously, the ones like that are obviously the major arcana. And then you've got obviously the Italian name, and then you've got the image, but the name on the image is in Spanish, which is very odd. And I'm pretty sure this is an Italian production because it is called Tarocco Egiziano, which is Italian for Egyptian tarot, which is very misleading because I don't know about you, but I see nothing about Egyptian here. El falso adivino, okay. The fake diviner or fortune teller. It is amazing to find these decks I had completely forgot about. It's amazing. You've got so many different systems, by the way, because so this is like poker cards, but this is very familiar to me because it's a regional Italian playing cards. They have these kind of figures, images on them. So it's so weird. And again, with, you know, the Kabbalah references, you've got the Egyptian symbols. At least you got something Egyptian. Descanso o reposo. Wow. Unfortunately, I don't even have, let's see if there's any kind of card with explanation. Nope. So I don't know how to use this deck, to be honest with you. It feels like, because there's, so we got keywords, okay? At the top we got the upright meaning, which is loss, perdita, loss. And then we got the reverse meaning, which is anxiety and grief. Well, of course, it's the Five of Swords, so it feels like this is WS. I mean, Five of Swords, well, loss, grief, not necessarily. It's close to the meaning. Okay, let's have a look at this one. This is the Six of Swords, so obviously we've got excursion, so moving in a journey, and declaration for the reverse meaning, which is not necessarily something that I would associate with the Six of Swords. I don't know, honestly. Okay, question out there, if you're watching this video, do you have this deck, and can you please let me know if there's any book I can refer to, because I actually like it. It's a beautiful deck. It's one of those old style decks, and obviously it's got a lot of information, but it feels to me like it's a bit of a mix between perhaps those court cards that we've seen, that I have in my collection. It's an Italian system of divination that looks into just the court card, for example, or you know, the Book of Destiny or something like that. But also it does have a couple of references to the RWS, even though they're misplaced, or they're not misplaced, but they're not necessarily matching. So this is the Two of Wands, for example, says dispiacere, which is something unpleasant. So the Two of Wands, if upright, is not something unpleasant. It's something that you're looking at your world and you find that it's too small for you, so you want to find something else. Or let's see, happiness with the Hierophant, which is not necessarily something I would associate with the Hierophant. Wisdom for sure. That's so weird. And in any case, if you have it, it's called Tarocco Egiziano, so Egyptian Tarot. This is the box, and it doesn't have much else. Really weird, but and I don't know, I'll do some research. Sorry about that. It's just that obviously it was not used, and you know, this is what happens when you don't use a deck. You lose information on it, and then the years go by and it's difficult to find it. Okay, now that was it. It was a very short video, but I'm quite happy to have had a look at these decks because I hadn't seen them in a long time. So now I'll make sure, especially with the Bizarre Tarot, I'll make sure that it's in one of my prominent shelves because I really like it. So thank you so much for staying with me till the end of this video. As always, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. It will mean the world to me. And leave a comment. It's always nice to have a conversation here. So more to come. Have a great day.